So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We thought we would do another session just to connect and see how everyone is doing and chat around some of the complexities that not only our country but our world is facing. So yes, in light of that, why don't you kick it off for us, Butch?
Yeah, morning, Lee. Thanks so much. I'm Butch James, and I'm part of the sales team at Balize Private Estate. So it's a bit of tough times at the moment, especially trying to sell property. We love taking people to site and getting them up to the site, especially the Balize site, because of the beautiful view we do have. But, you know, life goes on, so we're hanging in there and enjoying the time at home with the family.
Great. Thanks, Butch. Wes?
Yeah, how's it? I'm Wesley Smith. I'm part of the Gap group of companies, which has a private equity portfolio and a property portfolio through Gap Properties. And yeah, me too. It's certainly interesting times that we're in now. For most of our stuff we've never seen in our lives before. No one's been through this. Whatever age you are, I don't think you've been through it. Yeah. And it's something incredibly complex, nerve-wracking and exciting all at the same time. So it's a strange environment to be in right now.
Absolutely. Thanks, Wes. What about you, Devin?
Yeah, hi, Leanne. So I'm Devin Schutte, Head of Investments at the Robert Group. We're a wealth manager based on the North Coast in Umhlanga and Ballito. And yeah, my job is to really provide some perspective as to what's going on at the moment to our clients, because, you know, quite frankly, we haven't been here before in this shape and form. But we do know there are certain kind of behaviors and things that people can be doing in these times that we think will assist them in weathering the storm. Great.
And before we really get started, I'd love to hear from you guys how you're coping at home, just with this new reality. I know all three of you have young children, and so that must be a challenge, with having to keep them entertained, to keep them educated, to keep sane yourselves. How are each of you coping with that? Devin, let's start with you.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's been a challenge. So I'm fully set up at home here. The market never sleeps. I brought my screens home with me, so that's been a good and a bad thing, watching the volatility. But sure, it is a challenge, and you really do get the feeling that the ground is shifting underneath our feet, and the businesses and the industries we're going to go back to are going to be very different. So yeah, while we're all figuring this out, especially with young children, as you said, I think there's bigger things we also need to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Wes, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, Lee, I've tried to, the first week's actually been quite busy. I think across the business lines, trying to get as much of the groundwork as we can do now. I think we're going to enter into a quiet time when we're going to feel across our business lines, we've done all we can do for now, and then we'll sit and wait. But I'm with the families, actually been quite special. I find for the first time for me, I haven't felt rushed. There's always a sense I felt I've got to be somewhere. So I'm never fully present. Yeah. And over the weekend, last weekend, I took time off. I look forward to it again this weekend. But for the first time, I had nowhere to be. There was no school sports. There was no meetings. There was no shopping to do. So it was actually a fairly blessed time. I felt it was a time of focus and being still, and really being present with the children. Staying fit's been a little tricky. I've got a 150-meter route around my house. So my son and I get up most mornings, and we generally do 10 laps, which is 1.5. We've pressed it to 2.2 kilometers, so you end up feeling pretty dizzy at the end. We're running a little pathway into my grass at the moment, a little obstacle course.
Great, Wes. And Butch, what about you? I know that you've got a newborn baby in the house, so that must present its own set of challenges.
Yeah, we've got a 1-month-old, so it is pretty tough. Those babies, they're pretty full on, so that is a tough part. But it's really good. You know, I've got 2 other older boys, and the reason we had a third was because we just thought that these 2 little boys of ours have grown up so fast, and we've almost missed them being babies. You know, so we ended up having a third, and it's been great. I mean, to get time to spend with him. I mean, he's already grown so much, and before we know it, we're going to blink our eyes again, and they're going to be 4 or 5 years old again. So it's really special time with the little guy as well as with the older two. You know, it's pretty hard to keep them busy throughout the day, but the school's done pretty well with giving them some work, and then you've got to get quite creative at home to keep them busy. I'm actually waiting for them to bust through the door now and then come and spoil our little call here. But they've been really good, and just like we said, I think the time you get to spend with them is really special, and it's actually quite enjoyable. I think everything happens for a reason, and Wes mentioned this has never happened in anyone's lifetime before, and I think maybe life just gets away from us, and I think this is a good way of putting our feet back on the ground and saying try see the things that really matter, you know. So it's good times, and besides family, it's also good times to catch up on things that you maybe haven't had time to do because of being too busy, and like Wes says, having to be somewhere all the time.
Mm-hmm. A word that a friend of mine uses at the moment a lot is about an opportunity to recalibrate. So I'm really excited. I mean, it's a terrible time that our world is in, but I think if we always look for the silver lining, for me, that silver lining is to recalibrate. So let's start afresh. 100%. I look forward to seeing what the new normal is going to look like. Right now, it's still very much an unknown, but there will be a new normal. So guys, thanks for that. What we would really like to talk about is the impact of not only the coronavirus, which right now is still very much an unknown, but in the South African context, the concept of that together with the Moody's downgrade. We're now in junk status, but at the same time, our currency is at an all-time low. So it makes investments very attractive into South Africa, in spite of the junk status. So Devin, I would love your input in terms of this tension between a really bad currency together with the junk status. What would you say to the South African businessmen and women out there?
Sure. I mean, I think if we have to break that up into the elements, the downgrade by Moody's to sub-investment grade or junk statements was no surprise at all. They'd been warning the government since 2017 when the other two ratings agencies downgraded us of what they expected us to do in terms of putting through reforms to create growth, to address the problems with the SOEs. And quite frankly, we didn't listen. And the fact that the hair that broke the camel's back was the COVID outbreak, was almost irrelevant. You know, the downgrade happened at a very bad time. They always do. And what it's now going to do is really force our leaders and policymakers to make the hard decisions. There aren't any easy decisions left to make. The government finances are highly constrained, and the kind of key pressure points for our leaders, things like unemployment and that, are really going to gain a lot of prominence. There's going to be some pretty rough economic territory to traverse once we come out of this. And I think that we've got to also look at what's happening in South Africa. That's kind of what's happened there. But you mentioned the currency as well, and you're in a world where there's been a uniform global sell-off in financial markets because of this uncertainty and fear around the COVID-19 pandemic. So although we've been behaving badly, a lot of the weakness in financial markets has just been the fact that investors have been searching for liquidity. And by and large, they've been going into the US dollar and selling pretty much everything else across the board, selling South African equities, South African bonds, the currency, but likewise for all the other emerging markets and other big developed markets. So there's really been nowhere to hide. And you can see that in the prices that our bonds are trading at, our shares are trading at, and you mentioned the currency at an all-time low. So it's the volatility has really been incredible. It's been quite unnerving to see how quickly this has unraveled. But I guess the challenge for all of us is to say, okay, well, we're in this now. what decisions are we going to make when we emerge on the other side of this?
Thanks, Devin. And your thoughts, Wes, on this?
Yeah, Lee, I was trying to explain it, even to chat to at home, to explain it to the children what's happened and what we're going through. And, the example that came to mind, I don't know if you've been to the gym and you run on the treadmill. And so the treadmill keeps going, and I don't know if someone's happened to stop that treadmill. If you stand on the side, if you miss that piece that's moving, you normally come to this abrupt halt.
Yeah.
And that's what's really happened. Globally, we've had this, and not globally, and then also in South Africa, we've had this abrupt halt where it's as if there was water flowing down a pipe. And there was a constant flow of water, and now that water's been shut off. And then we hope and pray that in 21 days the tap gets turned back on again. But you're still going to have this airlock in the pipe.
Yeah.
And those airlocks do cause some damage. So does falling off a treadmill cause a little bit of damage. And so when I try to, if you think of it simplistically, so you look at the globe first, and then you look at South Africa. But if you go down to your own personal budget, so we've all got our own budget at home. So we have our salary coming in. Then we got our monthly expenses, groceries, medical aid, mortgage bond, maybe credit card, school fees. So what's happened now is that income line item's gone. So we all trying to wrestle with the expenses now. So the water tap's been closed on the inflow, and we've got all these expenses we need to deal with. Now, some of them we can work around. So the banks have been pretty good on applying this 3-day payment, this 3 months. Most banks are on this 3-month payment holiday. So that might help you a little bit on your bond and on your credit cards. Medical aids, you still got to pay that. I haven't heard any relief there. Insurance, you're still paying. Groceries, you still got to eat. School fee. So there's certain elements you can't get out of. So now, as an individual, you're saying, right, where do I find this gap? For now, it's a 21-day gap. Okay, where do I find the money for groceries, for medical aid, etc.? So either you got to borrow more, with some family's going to help you out. So you take that in your personal scenario, and now extrapolate that up to every single business out there that retail. So we've got a couple of businesses in the retail sector. They are literally getting no income for 21 days, but we've still got stock in the store. We've got salaries to pay, rent to pay. Every other cost is still there. So we're all hustling to try and get this done. So where the government now tries to step in the gap with these stimulus packages, so they kind of try and open that tap a bit to reduce that air block as far as we can. And UIF's been a big one. I know they're sitting on 30 billion of available cash flow. It's just how do we get that out? Because if everything filters through and everyone passes on the shortfall, ultimately, sadly, it's often the employee that loses out. So these stimulus packages could help. So in the perfect world, if you could, the entire world would take a 21-day pause, and we'd all wait and come out the other side, and government would work out what is that shortfall, salaries, losses, and they would just provide that cash. Now, that creates other problems sometimes. This quantitative easing is talked about a lot. I think the US, I don't know how many $1 trillion they have now. But other people are just saying, look, that is something that has to be provided, which I tend to agree with, because there's this treadmill gap now that needs to be filled. So, Lee, it has all sorts of implications. I mean, as Devin would see, all of a sudden you see in the all-share index, it got down to 37,000 at one stage at its low. So it had in 12 months, it had fallen 37.5% at one stage from its high, just in a 52-week period. I mean, now it's up a bit. I'd see it's around 44,500, but still 22% down in 90 days. So the reaction is extreme, and the reaction is fast. And now we all got to just sit back and start looking at our individual businesses, our individual balance sheets, and saying, okay, how do we weather the storm so we can come out on the other side?
Thanks, Wes. To bring it a little closer to home in terms of one of our property developments, which is Balize Private Estate, what are your thoughts in terms of people wanting to invest right now, given the state of the economy, the global economy, the local economy, and just where we're at right now? What advice would you give them? Devin?
So look, I mean, in times of uncertainty in investing, it always creates opportunity, right? Because by nature, we're not sure how things are going to play out. And often when we're feeling comfortable and things are looking good again, it's usually too late. And you can apply that to investing in most asset classes. I think physical property does have some characteristics that people might favor in these times. So, it could be viewed as kind of a safe harbor, with the volatility in financial markets. Property might look quite attractive there. But I think a principle that all investors need to be focusing on very carefully is not to be acting on emotion. Emotion will cost investors significantly in this time, and particularly fear. Fear is a very tangible and visceral emotion that often causes us to take actions in our investments that are counter to what we should be doing. It makes us sell when things are low, when we know we should be doing the opposite. So being in control of oneself and that emotional mindset is crucial for any investor in navigating these turbulent times, because there is just so much uncertainty, and that widens the range of possible outcomes, that we have to control what we can, and just let go of the environment which is completely outside of our control.
Thanks, Devin. And what about you, Butch? How are you advising people when they talk to you now about property investment?
Yeah, I think the one positive that did happen was the interest rate did drop a little bit. I know there's not much good news around at the moment, but at least there was that little drop. And of course, a drop in petrol. And I know Wes was talking about expenses. That's one expense that we are saving on at the moment is petrol, and they go and drop the price. So I don't think we're really saving too much on that price drop. But yeah, the interest rate has dropped, and I think that's great for South Africans. And then, Lee, you mentioned the exchange rates at the moment for foreigners to come and buy property in South Africa would be an absolute bargain, And I think also the way South Africans are thinking at the moment, I think a lot of them are thinking they in two minds of what's happening with the country, and should they stay, should they go. So I think a lot of them will be starting to rent. So when you are buying a property for investment purposes, I think the rental market's going to be a great market in the next couple of years. So it's a real good time to get into property if you're wanting to invest. And yeah, who knows? I think that slowly that rental price is going to go up and up, and then slowly South Africans especially are going to realize that, look, the country's still great and I still want to live here. Let me rather go and buy a property now, because instead of paying someone else's bond off, I'll rather pay off my own. So yeah, that's what I've got a feeling might happen in the next couple of months, especially after this lockdown. But yeah, I'm no expert like Wes and Dev, but that's just a feeling I'm getting, and because I'm certainly thinking it myself.
Thanks, Butch. And I guess it's just to be reminded that Belize is in the fastest growing node in the country right now. The old adage of location, 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 Belize really does tick all those boxes in its proximity to the airport, to the business hub, to the ocean. So yeah, it really is if you're looking to invest in property, it really does meet all those criteria. So yeah, it gets our vote.
It certainly does. It does, Lee, and it also ticks all the boxes for people wanting to buy, either investor or as a primary resident. First-time buyers, we got beautiful apartments that people can buy for first-time buyers, and then it goes into our freestanding villas, which are awesome little villas, and for those could be first-time buyers for retirement. So it's really ticks all the boxes, does Belize. So a really real good investment as well as a primary residence.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I would love, in closing, just a very short word of encouragement as we face the next 2 weeks of lockdown. There's some whispers that it might be extended. Just how are you encouraging yourself and your family and the people around you? And what words of wisdom would you like to leave for the rest of us? Let's start with you, Wes.
Yeah, Lee, from our side, all our businesses in our group, we've always built them. We openly a Christian business. So we've always I look at where we've come so far, and we're just always grateful to God for what He's provided for us. The businesses we have in our portfolio, we're just so grateful for the properties that we get to work with. So I think there's a huge element of trust. Right now, there's not a lot that we can do. We can become fearful about things that we cannot control, which is just not healthy. I don't think any decision made from a position of fear or anxiety is ever really a good one. So I think we need to focus a little bit more on what can we control. Right now, the thing we can control most that's right in front of us is relationships, spouse and children. That's an absolute gift. We can start looking at our personal, oh, sorry, something's come up here. Sorry, something came up on my screen there, Lee. On our personal, from our personal point of view, we can have a look at what we have. What are our, is everything up to date with regards to our insurances, our health plans, our budgets? Where can we shave things, and what are we learning during this time? But I think really a lot of it, we're just going to have to sit back and trust for us that the outcome this is a short term, a real short term blimp. How long it will take to restore is a guess again. But the saying "this too shall pass" is very true. It really is true. You go back to the 2008-2009 crisis. Uber, Airbnb were all birthed out of that time frame.
Yeah.
I'm exceptionally excited about what opportunities are coming out now. And even with I think the greatest ability we have is time and to think. And something we don't get to do. And I think during this time frame, there's going to be some incredible innovation, new opportunities for us all to jump into. A time we're going to look back on. No one else can say they've done this before. As a generation, we can say we've had a worldwide lockdown, and this is what we've been able to come up with as a people. So that's from myself.
Thanks, Wes. What about you, Devin? In 30 seconds.
So look, I think I think for businesses, the challenge here will be to remain relevant as we go through this paradigm shift. I do think that one should never waste a good crisis, and coming through the other side of this, there will be opportunities and instances where we can actually be bold and step into new ways of doing things, new markets, and new opportunities there. So, I'd encourage everyone, look after yourselves personally, and we'll get through this probably together and, more unified than we've been in a while. And I think that's the biggest upshot to all of this, is how do we come out of it together as a country and as humanity.
Lovely. Thanks, Devin. And what about you, Butch?
Yeah, I think Wes touched on Uber and Airbnb coming out of the last crisis. I would love to know from Dev how the Zoom shares and as well as house party shares are going. I mean, I never used Zoom as much in this last week as I have ever, So, I think as South Africans, I think we're in not just with the lockdown, I think we're in a tough place at the moment and our backs are against the wall, but I think we always come out fighting and come out stronger when our backs are against the wall. So I've got no worries that after this lockdown, especially, we're going to all come out better people, better everything, So keep fighting, keep trying to spend that time with your family, enjoy that time with your family, because I don't think when we come out of it and our lives carry on, you're not going to have so much time again. So our backs are against the wall, but we like that. We come out better on this other side.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your insights and your encouragement. And now go and enjoy time with your family.
Thanks, Lee.
Take care.
Awesome.
Can't I just stay up a little bit more?
A little quieter for you, Butch. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Dave.